In today's episode, Mark asks, what's your take on how AI is going to impact things like design, like with the tools and technologies like generative adversarial networks, things like UX research, and so on and so forth, based on a video that was going around on LinkedIn by Michael Turnbull. So let's look at a couple of practical applications of this, because there's a lot of big ideas, but there's not a lot of implementation things that you can pick up and run with. So on the topic of generative adversarial networks, one place to check out that it shows you the power of a GAN is NVIDIA's research lab. So if you go to the AI playground here, there are a couple of different tools that can show you how a generative adversarial network works and what it does. Let's go first to the scenery tool. This is a tool where it's called GAN, where you, in your best Microsoft Paint impressions, attempt to put together sort of a mediocre drawing. So I'm going to do a very silly kids drawing sort of thing here. And you can see this is clearly, in no way would anyone think, wow, Chris, you're really a fantastic artist, right? This is pretty mediocre. So let's put in a river too here, right? Get a nice little river going. So the drawing on the left is in no way going to be ever mistaken for fine art. Have a GAN go ahead and attempt to compose a photo from it, and you can see you get this really nice sort of photorealistic look from what is an incompetent drawing that wouldn't, you wouldn't ever put this in anything. You wouldn't even hang out in your refrigerator. So this is an example of AI using what it knows based on a very large training library and generating it this way. I think this is one of the most powerful applications of AI for things like design and UX and such, because up until now, the toughest part of creativity was talent, right? You had to have talent. You had to have years of training to be able to paint well. Now, we're getting to a point where literally a child could put together a very simple image, and an artificial intelligence can attempt to assemble using its own skills the intended outcome. So this is an example of where AI will remove the talent limitations to a large degree and let our ambition be the only blocking point for what it is that we want to accomplish. Another example is the ability to use AI to clean up imagery. So images and designs, things like that. I'm going to load in a picture here of my dog, right? There's my dog. And you can see there's a flower pot on the right-hand side of the screen here. I don't particularly want that flower pot in the scene. Again, using generative adversarial networks, it's going to attempt to infer what should be there, right? And get rid of that flower pot. That's pretty impressive, right? If the ability to go through and remove things from imagery. Now imagine if you've got people out in the field who are doing clip art or doing photo shoots and stuff, and there's something in your images that you don't want there, right? You could go and reshoot the whole thing, or you could just use AI to clean it up for you. At some point, tools like this will become commercially available very, very easily, and again, you could spend hours and hours and hours trying to manually clean up objects that you don't want in your photos. It could take a really long time, and there are people who do this professionally. Why? Why not have machines do some of the cleanup? Another example is on content generation. So there's a tool called GPT-2 from OpenAI that allows us to load in text and have it generate new text. I've published some articles and examples using tweets. This is another example. I took the Content Marketing World team, took their Twitter account, loaded it in here, and had the software generate, I think, around 25,000 different tweets. Now, some of these are clear misses, like yoga for fidget spinners, right? That makes absolutely no sense. But this is also a relatively untuned model. One of the things that will become very, very prominent in the next year or so is the aggressive use of what's called active learning, where machines will put out a few outputs at a time, assign a probability, like, yep, this was a good one, this I'm not sure about. And for the ones it's not sure about, it's going to raise its hand and say, hey, human, is yoga for fidget spinners a good tweet? And we as humans would say, no. and give feedback to the machine, and it will then go back and retune over and over and over again. But instead of the way it's done now, where you have very large, big neural network projects, like it just tries to do the thing all at once, and then you come out sometimes with salad, it will allow us to ask, it'll allow the machines to ask us, hey, before I invest too much in this, what do you think of this? What do you think of this? And unlike the task of manually tagging and training the models that we've done up to this point, which requires a lot of tagging, active learning will allow us to do it iteratively with very, very few samples. Like, hey, here's 10 tweets. Which one doesn't make sense? Or here's 10 ads that the machine has generated using image generation. Which visual do you like best? And a human can go through and select them and tune that up very, very quickly. So this is an example of using a transformer, which is a different type of neural network, to generate a lot of content. Yet another one, this is a service called Ava. Ava allows you to, in a relatively straightforward format, choose some type of musical format, do your hyperparameter optimization, which is a nice way of saying change the settings, and create music. What do you use this for? Well, of course, if you are a company that wants to generate, that needs to use music for things like videos, advertising, YouTube, right? And you don't want to incur the wrath of copyright lawyers by using music that you do not have rights to, you will use artificial intelligence to generate it. Now, is any of this going to win a Grammy? No. Is it good enough for background music for video? Yes, by far. It is good enough for speeches, for intro videos on screen. You just pick the style and let the machine do the work. Again, this is a case of where ambition is the only limitation. You don't need the talent anymore. Now, is there still a place for humans? Of course. This is good enough. It is not great. It is not amazing yet, right? And it will get there eventually. But for today, if we're talking about practical applications that you can be using right now to improve your design, your marketing, your creative, there are plenty of tools that are available, that are out there, that you can run either in a web browser or right on your desktop computer and get a sense of this is really what works. One last example that is one of my favorites is the ability for us to understand what's working. And this was in Michael's video as well. Michael's video talked about being able to do testing. Well, one of my favorite things to do, because I have no life, is to be able to understand on a website what content is working best. This is a service from my company called Most Valuable Pages, or MVP, using the type of machine learning to look at the journey somebody takes on a website and analyze it and say, these are the pages you need to focus on because they are the ones that help conversions the most. This type of feedback helps UX, UI, design to know where to focus their efforts. It helps understand the content. And then you can even deploy the same type of technology for what sources are sending you the most traffic, things like that. There are versions that will even allow you to identify like what features on a page might be important. This type of machine learning, again, all of this runs on a laptop. We're not talking about $1 million of hardware sitting in a server room somewhere. As long as you have the technical talent to implement it, or a company that you work with, this will get you results. So great question, Mark. Lots to unpack. There's so much opportunity right now for marketers with AI, and it is nearly limitless. As always, please leave your comments below and subscribe to the YouTube channel and the newsletter. I'll talk to you soon. Want help solving your company's data, analytics, and digital marketing problems? Visit trustinsights.ai today and let us know how we can help you.